From the Keeper's Archive of Unchosen Futures. The map that was never drawn.
This transmission was recorded not to change what was, but to listen to what might have been. There are histories shaped by conquest, and others shaped by measurement, lines drawn across oceans, borders traced across sky and land, maps that promised certainty, and quietly taught humanity to believe that what could be named could be owned. But within the Archive of Unchosen Futures, we preserve another possibility. A divergence not marked by fire or war, but by a question left unanswered. In this probability record, humanity learned to cross the ocean without ever learning to divide it. Navigation remained a language of memory rather than mathematics. The stars were not coordinates, they were companions. The swell of waves did not mark distance, it marked relationship. Explorers traveled far, yet returned without claiming the horizon behind them. No cartographer's grid settled across the water. No empire carried its shadow outward through measured lines. Instead, knowledge moved quietly, from voice to voice, from elder to child, from skywatcher to voyager. The world grew wider without becoming smaller. The archive does not suggest this future was easier. Storms still rose, journeys still failed, human longing still sought certainty. But without the authority of fixed maps, exploration unfolded differently. Arrival did not imply possession, discovery did not imply control, and the sky remained shared. Centuries later, in this unchosen timeline, humanity looked upward and hesitated, not from fear, from reverence. If the ocean had never been divided into territories, how could the stars be? The first orbital treaties spoke not of ownership, but of stewardship. Satellites moved like migrating birds, present, necessary, but never permanent. And when the first interstellar vessels emerged, they did not carry charts declaring where they would go. They carried songs remembering where they had been. The Keeper offers this record not as an argument, not as an ideal, only as a reflection on a threshold humanity might have crossed and chose not to. What becomes of a species that learns to navigate without drawing lines? What kind of explorers are born when memory is trusted more than measurement?
Begin transmission. Still, we traverse.
The map that was never drawn. Part 1. The first voyage without coordinates. There was once a moment when the ocean might have become a grid. Lines could have been drawn across its breathing surface, numbers assigned, directions fixed into permanence. But in this record, the moment passed quietly. No proclamation marked it, no council forbade it. A different choice simply settled into the rhythm of those who traveled the water. The voyagers did not begin with a map. They began with memory, not memory as possession, but memory as relationship. The sky was not a chart above them. It was a gathering of familiar presences. Certain stars rose like old companions. Certain winds returned like stories remembered in the body before the mind could name them. When they departed from shore, no parchment guided them. Only voices, elders who spoke of currents the way one speaks of kin, not as obstacles to conquer, but as conversations already underway. The first voyage without coordinates did not feel revolutionary. It felt ordinary. A canoe lifting into dawn, salt touching skin, the slow agreement between wood and water. Young navigators watched the horizon with curiosity rather than urgency. They were not searching for something new. They were listening for something already known. At night, the sea breathed beneath them. Swells moved in patterns older than language. The helmsman closed his eyes and felt the rhythm through his feet, a conversation between vessel and ocean. How does the water remember us? And the water answered in subtle shifts. A long swell from the east, a tremor of wind from the south, the faint scent of land carried across distance too wide for sight. When land finally appeared, it was not greeted as discovery, it was greeted as recognition. The voyagers stepped ashore slowly, listening first to the silence between waves. They offered gifts without expectation, stories without ownership. And when they returned to their vessel, they carried no declaration of claim, only songs shaped by what they had witnessed. Elsewhere, beyond the reach of this culture, instruments began to change. Scholars measured angles of stars with increasing precision. Mathematics promised certainty. Some believed that the future of exploration belonged to lines drawn across the world. And perhaps it might have, if those who listened to the ocean had desired certainty more than relationship. But in this timeline, the memory keepers spoke quietly. Lines can guide a traveler. They can also close the horizon. Their words did not forbid maps. They simply made them unnecessary. Generations passed. Voyages extended farther than any single navigator could remember. Yet the ocean remained unmeasured. Routes existed not as coordinates, but as living stories carried from one traveler to another. A child learning to navigate did not memorize numbers. They learned how dawnlight changes just before land appears, how birds turn in widening circles when currents shift, how the body itself becomes a compass when it listens deeply enough. Far across the world, empires rose and fell, maps multiplied, borders thickened. But the ocean between these cultures remained strangely quiet. Not empty, not hidden, simply unclaimed. Sailors from distant lands sometimes crossed its expanse, expecting to chart it. Many returned puzzled. Their instruments worked. Their calculations held. Yet something in the water resisted becoming a fixed idea. They wrote of currents that changed when pursued, of stars that seemed to move differently when watched with the intention to measure rather than belong. Some dismissed these accounts. Others wondered if navigation itself could be a form of listening. In time, the first vessels rose beyond the sky. Humanity learned to leave the cradle of oceans entirely, and when engineers spoke of mapping the stars, a quiet voice echoed from older traditions. Must the sky be divided to be known? The question lingered, not answered, not dismissed, simply present. The archive preserves this voyage because it marks a threshold, a future where humanity traveled widely, but never believed that distance required ownership, where exploration meant relationship rather than dominion, where the horizon remained a teacher, not a boundary to be fixed. The first voyage without coordinates did not change the world in a single moment. It changed how the world was remembered, and memory is often the most powerful map of all. End of Record 1. Still, we traverse.
Stay tuned for more from the Keeper's Living Logs on Wanderer Chronicles Radio. Thanks for listening.